Hi everyone, and welcome back to the kitchen. Today we are doing a canning video on homemade dill pickle chips. Our little guys love pickles, and we've been making homemade hamburgers to avoid the fast food restaurants. Now I will tell you, these need to stay canned on the shelf for 6 weeks. So I'm getting ahead of the game because there was a good deal on salad cucumbers this week. It's a good way to stay inside when it's cold out. We are in the single digits overnight and into the 20s and mid 20s during the daytime. So I'm going to do everything I can to keep the house warm and keep inside and stay busy because I don't want to be out there doing any farm work. So I'm starting off with last night's beginning process. I washed all of my salad cucumbers, cut the blossom end off and the stem end off, and cut them into slices and set them in a brine. So this is kosher salt and water. So I just covered them with water and added a couple of tablespoons of kosher salt. Use as much as you want. The brining process is going to pull the water from the pickles. You can do this with zucchini, whatever you're canning, and pickling to pull that water out of the pickles. So now I'm going to drain these off and I'm going to rinse them because I do not want salty pickles. So we are rinsing off our cucumbers, and this brine helps it so that you have crispy pickles. The flavor develops over time, and because it is winter, I am not using fresh dill. I am using pickling spices. So we're starting off, this is a small batch, 2 cups of water and 2 cups of vinegar. Now you can add sugar to this, honey or maple syrup for a sweetener. Some people don't add any sugar at all, and that's fine, but this recipe is calling for that. I just keep sampling more recipes to find something that we like. I'm using Mrs. Wage's pickling spices today so that I can avoid a trip to the grocery store and to use up something that I bought long ago. Now you can wrap this in a cheesecloth or a nylon so that you can remove it from this. I don't mind that it goes straight into the jar. That's fine too. You can also not cook this and just put it into the bottom of the jars. Your choice. Okay, so I've got these all rinsed and drained, and they're going to go back in water. I just don't want them super salty. And I wanted to point out that you are going to use canning and pickling salt. The brine is with kosher salt, and you can vary that depending on which salt you're using because the actual size of the grain is going to change how strong your brine is. So canning and pickling salt. So here I've got 2 cups of water, 2 cups of vinegar, and I put 1/4 cup each of sugar and the pickling salt. I've got these pre-washed and put them into some hot water so that they will seal and are sanitized. We've got our mason jars heating up here. This isn't quite boiling yet, but it's time to go ahead and get these jars filled. Now you're doing a cold pack on a hot jar, so you want those jars hot for sterilization, and you don't want to have cold jars and cold everything getting filled with hot liquid because they will crack. I've got a double layer of kitchen towel here. A lot of times I'll use a bath towel because they're nice and thick. And my recipe is actually from a Better Homes and Garden website with many modifications. I just kind of take all the different recipes. I looked at my Ball Blue Book. I looked at another thing that I had. And none of the recipes that I've ever tried suggested brining the pickles. So this is why we're doing different variations. Now with a wide mouth jar, they work best for pickles. You don't necessarily need the canning funnel. It just helps to keep any liquid off the top. And of course, you know, we have little kids. And to keep your food yeast and bacteria down, I don't like to do this with my bare hands. Now, you can push them down. You want to get as many pickles in there as you can. See what a difference that makes? So you want to get as many pickles as you can in the jar so that you don't have a bunch of liquid and floating cucumbers or pickles at the end. My original recipe was 3 pounds of pickles, and I am using 2 pounds of pickles because I wanted to do a small batch. There is nothing worse than trying a new recipe and then not liking it, and you've got a dozen jars in the basement to use. This is what the Mrs. Wage's pickling spices amounts to. Peppercorns, dill seeds, mustard seeds, and they want you to do on the 3 pounds, 6 tablespoons, because it equals out to about 6 pint jars. I'm doing a tablespoon just right on top of the pickles. You can put it in the bottom, whichever you prefer. I'm just gonna do it this way. So we are now going to add our liquid concoction. And every cookbook gives you a slightly different amount of headspace required. I just generally kind of shoot for between a half an inch and an inch. Now I'm going to have a partial jar here, and I didn't have a half pint sanitized and ready to go. So I got all my jars filled, and I want to say that this is the actual recipe that I was kind of loosely following from Better Homes and Gardens. I had downloaded this off the internet a long time ago, and their liquid amounts are way off. So for 3 pounds, they wanted a total of 8 cups liquid. This ended up being 5 cups of liquid for the 4 jars, so I had to add a little bit more. So they're all clean. You can let any air bubbles out. You can do this with a butter knife or a non-metallic tool. This is for debubbling and for measuring headspace. You can get a canning kit from most companies that have everything in it. And as you can see, the spices all float to the top. So that's why some people like to put them in the bottom. And this is going to sit in the pantry. The heat from the canning is going to seal everything, and it also heats up all these seeds so that they start to release their aromas. Now here we've got our hot bands and lids. And remember, you can reuse your bands for canning, and we are using the water bath canner, not a pressure canner. I don't like to use the pressure canner if I don't have to, because it takes so long to depressurize. And doing this one at a time. Get it finger tight. Isn't that pretty? So then right in the pot it goes. Now these are nice and green. As they heat from canning, that will change just slightly. So you know how some people complain that they don't like Mondays? So any day can be good, any day can be bad. It's going to be what you make of it. So rather than being out cold and miserable, I decided to stay inside and do something nice for me. So in all transparency, I have to tell you, it is Monday, and who knows what day of the week this video ends up going up, but you just kind of have to plan your day so that you can make it somewhat enjoyable. The husband was home all weekend. The house is a wreck. The house is always a wreck. I've got 5 kids. I've got loads of laundry to do. The washer, the dryer are both going. I have a pile on... I have a crying baby. I've got a pile of laundry here to fold. The dishwasher's going. I've been putting away my big things that I wash by hand. Every day is what you make it. So I'm going to set this timer for 10 minutes, and we're going to come back and see how these pickles turned out. So if you're a frugal family and you like to be thrifty like us, occasionally you get canning labels in with your new mason jars that you get. You can also download your own templates online for making your own labels. So I'm using these up. Remember to put the date on them. It is so surprising how quickly you can lose track of things getting shuffled around in the pantry and find something that's a couple of years old. Now they usually recommend a year canning shelf time. My mother has never thrown away anything that was more than a year old, and unless it was in the freezer frostbitten, it didn't get tossed out. We always just open things, test them, and if they're okay, we go ahead and eat them. So if you like to save money on ingredients, this time of year, you can pick up seasoning packets in the canning goods section or in the end aisles, like at Meijer's or Tractor Supply. Georgie, no. For quite a discount. I'm talking a quarter to 50 cents a packet. Now, we're getting away from as much highly processed foods as we can, and the boys really like pickles. We do not need yellow number 5 in our diet. We're not lacking in that in any way. Who needs it anyway, right? So we found these Vlasic pickles. Now, at our Meijer stores, we have a line called True Goodness, and it's a lot of non-GMO and organic foods. This is no high fructose corn syrup, so we really wanted to do that, plus it had no dye. We were making special trips to Walmart for giant-sized dill pickles. The Mount Olive pickles are the kids' favorites, and these Vlasic pickles. So now that they're starting to market this is purely pickles with no dyes, no colors, no artificial flavors, preservatives, or high fructose corn syrup. Guess what? Your homemade pickles are not going to have any of that artificial, anything highly processed in it. The biggest process in it is your time going into cutting and dicing, and if you do whole pickles, it's really fast. So, £1.5 jar, about $3. The trouble with this is they were only available in bread and butter. Now, the kids aren't big fans of the bread and butter pickles. They prefer dill, and we like dill pickles on our homemade hamburgers. So as you know, we have cut out going to drive-thrus. The other day we were out shopping on Saturday, had some errands to run. We ended up getting some drive-thru food, and our stomachs paid for it the entire rest of the day. Mom and Dad were not feeling so well, and it ended up shutting down the operation for the whole day. So it wasn't worth that $3. We would have been better off snacking on things in the grocery store like we normally do as we were doing our regular shopping. So when you can your jars, make sure that you don't start the timer until the water is boiling. I like to turn my timer and my burner off and let it set for a little while longer if I'm just doing a small batch like this. See how nice and green those are? I know I've got a lot of light coming through the window, but all the spices kind of sink in there. See that air escaping out? As soon as these cool, is the magic sound you're looking for. They seal right shut. When that happens, when they first come out, that is up. Do not push on it. Don't mess with the lids. Just let them set. So the plan is you let these set on the counter undisturbed for 12 to 24 hours. I always do 24 hours. And after the 24 hours, I take the bands off, and you can store them with or without the bands. They really suggest that you store them without now. The metal can start to delaminate and get rusty and make it really hard for them to come off later on. And with anything with sugar in it, that sugar can seep up in that band and make it really hard to get off later on. So it's really nice to have that all clean and not attracting any insects or pests into your pantry at all also. So I'm just going to finish cleaning up everything. This worked out really nice. They're really nice and green. So a lot of pickle recipes say to wait about 6 weeks for that flavor to set in. This recipe actually says 1 week. So I'm going to come back and try them in 1 week and see what I think. I've got 4 jars, so I could try it over the next 4 weeks and see how we like it. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.